Billionaire CEO Ethan Cole had everything: power, fame, and a life untouched by struggle. But that rainy night on a lonely Seattle street, his world took a turn he never saw coming. As thunder cracked above, he slammed the brakes. A soaked teenage girl stood trembling by the road, clutching a torn backpack against the storm. Her lips were blue, her shoes ruined, yet her eyes carried something deeper than fear, something familiar. When Ethan stepped out and offered her a ride, she whispered a name that froze him in place. His brother's name, the one no one had spoken in years. The billionaire thought he was rescuing a stranger that night. He didn't know she was about to rewrite his entire life. The storm hadn't eased up for hours. Seattle's downtown shimmered with reflections of traffic lights and puddles, each one glowing against the wet concrete. Ethan Cole, billionaire CEO of Cole Technologies, sat behind the wheel of his black Bentley, the city noise fading behind the wiper's steady rhythm. He'd just left a charity gala held in his honor, a night filled with applause, donors, and hollow smiles. But beneath his polished calm, there was only silence. He was a man surrounded by people, yet completely alone. The road curved through an empty stretch near the harbor when he saw her, a girl, maybe 17, soaked to the bone, standing beneath a flickering streetlight. She wasn't begging, wasn't waving for help. She just stood there, clutching an old backpack like it held her entire life. Ethan hesitated. For a man known for his quick decisions, he suddenly couldn't move. Then, almost without thought, he stopped the car. The girl turned her head slowly, startled by the headlights. Her face was pale, her eyes gray, distant, unreadable. "Do you need a ride?" Ethan called out, stepping into the rain despite his tailored suit. For a moment she didn't speak. Then softly she said, "You shouldn't stop for strangers." Her voice shook, but not from cold. There was something heavier in it. Still, Ethan opened the back door. "It's freezing out here." "Get in." After a long pause, she climbed in, dripping water onto the leather seats. The billionaire sat back at the wheel, unsure why he'd done it. He was known for logic, not impulse. Yet something about her, her silence, her worn clothes, that broken backpack, made him forget who he was supposed to be. "Where to?" he asked. She hesitated again. "Anywhere warm." Her name, she finally revealed, was Maya, just Maya. As they drove, the rain thinned to a whisper. Ethan noticed she kept glancing at him, almost studying him. Her eyes lingered on his watch, his cufflinks, the logo on the dashboard. Not with envy, but with recognition. That unsettled him. "You look like you've walked a long way," Ethan said, trying to sound calm. Maya gave a faint smile. "I've been walking for a long time. Just didn't know it would end here." That line stayed with him. He pulled up outside a small 24-hour diner and offered to get her food. She refused at first, then gave in. Inside, the waitress looked at the pair strangely. An expensive suit beside a shivering teenager wrapped in a hoodie. Ethan ordered 2 coffees and a plate of pancakes. Maya sat quietly, tracing circles on the napkin. "Why did you stop?" she asked suddenly. He looked at her. "Because you looked like you needed help." "People usually don't stop when I need help," she murmured almost to herself. The billionaire didn't respond. He couldn't. Her words echoed somewhere deep, touching the part of him he'd buried years ago, the night his younger brother Ryan had died. The same night Ethan ignored a call that might have saved him. He paid for the meal and offered to drop her somewhere safe. But as they left the diner, Maya grew pale. She reached into her soaked bag, pulled out a folded, water-stained envelope and whispered, "I was told to find this address." "Cole Tower." Ethan froze. Cole Tower was his building, his name engraved on every floor. She held the letter tightly. "It's from someone who said you'd understand." Ethan's pulse quickened. "Who gave it to you?" Maya looked up at him, her voice trembling. "A man named Ryan." The billionaire stopped breathing for a second. His brother had been gone for 8 years. Before he could ask more, a gust of wind tore the letter from her hand and sent it flying into the rain. Maya gasped and chased after it. Ethan followed. When they caught it against a lamppost, Ethan saw just enough of the smudged ink to read the last line. "If you ever meet her, protect her. She's family." Ethan's heartbeat thundered in his ears. He looked at Maya. her soaked hair, trembling hands, and those haunting eyes that somehow mirrored his brother's. He didn't know who she really was. But one thing was clear: this meeting wasn't an accident. Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that fate had just knocked on his door in the middle of a storm. He'd spent years avoiding the past, burying himself in work, awards, and wealth. But now, this soaked teenage girl sat quietly in his car, holding a letter signed by the brother he'd failed to save. The drive to his penthouse was silent, but not empty. Maya's gaze kept drifting toward the glittering skyline. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "From here, everything looks unreal." Ethan didn't reply. For the first time in years, he felt unsure of himself. When they reached his building, the valet hesitated as the billionaire opened the passenger door for a stranger. No one had ever seen Ethan Cole bring anyone home who wasn't a business partner or investor. Inside the penthouse, warmth met the chill in her clothes. The marble floors gleamed, city lights spilling through the tall glass windows. Maya stood frozen, dripping water onto the polished surface. "You live here alone?" she asked softly. "Yes," Ethan said. "Alone is easier." Grace, his loyal housekeeper for over a decade, appeared from the hallway, eyes widening at the sight of the girl. "Oh my goodness, what happened?" "She was out in the storm," Ethan explained, voice tight. "Get her something warm, please." Grace led Maya to the guest room. The girl moved hesitantly, touching nothing, glancing at the walls lined with abstract art and framed awards. To her, it looked like another world, one built on money, not memories. When Maya returned wearing one of Grace's spare sweaters, Ethan handed her a cup of tea. "You said Ryan gave you that letter," he began carefully. "How do you know him?" Maya's hands trembled slightly. "I didn't know him." "Not really. My mom did. That caught Ethan off guard." "Your mother?" "She told me to find him years ago, but I never could. Then one day she got sick, and before she died she told me to find you instead. Said you were the only one who could understand." Ethan felt something twist inside. "What did she mean by that?" "I don't know," Maya whispered. "But she said you'd recognize the truth when you saw me." The billionaire leaned back, trying to process her words. The city hummed outside, distant and indifferent. Grace watched quietly from the corner, reading the look on Ethan's face. She'd seen him crumble once before when Ryan died, and now it was happening again. Later that night, after Maya had fallen asleep on the couch, Ethan sat in his study, the letter open beside him. The handwriting was smudged, but unmistakable. His brother's words stared back at him, filled with warmth and regret. Ryan had written about a girl, about someone innocent who deserved more than the world gave her. Ethan's chest tightened. Could Maya really be connected to his brother? Or was she part of some cruel trick? The next morning, Ethan asked Grace to drive Maya to a clinic for a checkup. But when Grace returned an hour later, her face was pale. "She's gone," Grace said, voice shaking. "She just walked out." No one saw where she went. Ethan's stomach dropped. He ran to his office, opened his laptop, and pulled up security footage from the penthouse entrance. There she was, Maya, slipping out quietly, clutching her backpack. But just as she turned toward the street, she paused and looked straight up at the building. Her lips moved slightly as if whispering something. Ethan froze as he zoomed in on the image. Hanging from her backpack zipper was a keychain, a tiny metal tag with an engraving. It read, "Ryan Cole Foundation 2009. The foundation had been shut down after Ryan's death. No one outside the family ever had those tags. Ethan's pulse quickened. He grabbed his coat, ignoring Grace's voice behind him. If she truly had something that belonged to Ryan, then Maya wasn't a stranger. She was the key to a secret his brother had taken to the grave. Ethan searched every street between his penthouse and the waterfront. The morning air was sharp, the city awake but cold. Every traffic light felt slower, every corner emptier. How could a girl vanish so easily in broad daylight? He drove past the diner where they'd first stopped. The waitress remembered her. "The girl?" "She asked if the Cole Tower was far from here," she said, wiping a counter. She looked scared, like someone was watching her. Those words unsettled him. Watching her? Who would? Back at Cole Technologies, Ethan's assistant informed him that Luke Bennett, his CFO, had been asking unusual questions about a minor staying at the CEO's residence. Ethan's stomach turned. Luke was ambitious, ruthless, and always waiting for an opportunity to make Ethan look weak. When Luke entered the office later that day, his smile was thin and calculated. "Word travels fast, Ethan. People are talking about the girl. Not good for a billionaire who preaches integrity." "She's a child who needed help," Ethan replied sharply. Luke leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Or a liability with a story that could destroy you. A mysterious runaway claiming ties to your late brother. It sounds like a scandal waiting to happen. The board won't like it." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Stay out of my personal life, Luke." But Luke didn't back down. "I've seen the headlines before they're even printed. You'll thank me when this doesn't ruin you." As Luke left, Ethan caught a flicker of guilt in his eyes, a sign he was already feeding the story to reporters. That night, Ethan found himself parked near the old Pier 57, the location in the faded photo Maya had shown him. The Ferris wheel lights blinked over the bay, reflecting on the water like fading memories. He remembered coming here as a kid with Ryan. That was before money changed everything. Then he saw her. Maya was sitting at the edge of the pier, legs crossed, backpack beside her. She wasn't hiding, just waiting. "You ran away," Ethan said softly as he approached. "I didn't want to cause you more trouble," she replied without looking up. "That man, the one who came to your office. He's been following me since yesterday." Ethan frowned. "Luke? I don't know his name." "But he knows who I am." Maya finally looked at him, her eyes red but steady. "I found something else. My mom left a picture with a note. She said the man who saved her life years ago was named Ryan Cole. He promised he'd come back for us." Ethan's breath caught. "He knew your mother?" Maya nodded. "She said he was kind. A man who gave her money to start over when no one else would. He used to visit the shelter where she volunteered. Then one day he stopped coming." Ethan closed his eyes. "That was the year he died." There was a pause, long, heavy, painful. "He tried to help too many people," Ethan said quietly. "And I wasn't there when he needed me." Maya placed her hand over the letter in her bag. "He didn't blame you. I think he wanted you to forgive yourself." Before Ethan could answer, his phone buzzed. A flood of notifications filled the screen. Articles, headlines, gossip. Billionaire CEO hiding runaway teen in penthouse. Cole family secrets surface amid scandal. Luke had done it. Maya looked terrified. "They'll come for me now. I've been through this before. Foster homes, shelters, reporters. They don't care what's true." Ethan's expression hardened. "You're not going anywhere." "I'll protect you." "Why?" she asked, voice trembling. "You don't even know who I am." He met her gaze. "I don't have to. You remind me of someone who saved me once." A sudden noise cut through the night. Footsteps. Two men in suits stepped out of the shadows near the pier. One of them called, "Mr. Cole, step away from the girl." Ethan turned sharply. "Who sent you?" The taller man held up a document. "Child Protective Services. We received a report. The girl is to be taken for safety evaluation." Maisha's grip tightened around his arm. "Please, don't let them take me." Ethan felt his chest tighten. Every instinct screamed to fight back, but he knew resistance could make it worse. Then the shorter agent spoke, his voice calm but chilling. "We just need to confirm one thing before we go." He looked at Maya. "Your full name, please." Maya hesitated, then whispered something that made both men exchange glances. Ethan's heart nearly stopped, because the name she spoke wasn't Maya Reed, it was Maya Cole. The rain began again, soft but relentless, as Ethan realized the storm had only just begun. The words echoed like thunder in Ethan's mind. Maya Cole. That one name shattered the walls he'd built for years, walls made of pride, guilt, and silence. The CPS officers glanced between them, clearly confused by Ethan's reaction. He struggled to breathe. "What did you say?" Maya's voice trembled. "That's what my mom wrote on my birth record. I didn't think it mattered until now." The taller officer cleared his throat. "Mr. Cole, if you claim any familial relation to the girl, we'll need to verify that legally." Until then, she comes with us. Ethan's instincts kicked in. You're not taking her anywhere, he said firmly, his tone low but sharp enough to freeze the air. Not until I know the truth. Sir, the officer replied, it's standard procedure. Procedure doesn't understand family, Ethan snapped. For a brief second, no one moved. Then Maya stepped forward. It's okay, she whispered, her eyes pleading. They're just doing their job. Ethan's gaze softened, but his heart was breaking. You think I'll let them take you after what you just said? The younger officer hesitated, sensing the tension, then quietly said, You can meet us at the center in the morning. She'll be safe for the night. Ethan exhaled, fists clenched, watching helplessly as they escorted Maya toward their car. She looked back once through the rain, her eyes full of questions she couldn't ask. When their taillights disappeared, Ethan stood still, rain dripping from his hair. For the first time in years, he felt powerless, the same kind of powerlessness he'd felt the night his brother died. He drove straight to his office. Luke was still there, waiting, sipping whiskey like a man celebrating a silent victory. Quite the storm out there, Luke said casually, without looking up. And in here too, from what I hear. Ethan's voice was cold. You called CPS, Luke smirked. I did what was necessary. You were about to risk the entire company for some random runaway. You've lost perspective, Ethan. Perspective? Ethan repeated. You think humanity is a liability? Luke leaned back. I think kindness is dangerous when you're a billionaire. You forget people want something from you. Ethan stepped closer, his tone steady but fierce. She didn't want money. She wanted answers, Luke's smile faltered. Answers to what? Ethan tossed the crumpled letter onto the desk. To who she really is. Luke picked it up, reading the signature at the bottom. His face shifted from smugness to surprise. Ryan Cole, he murmured. Your brother? Ethan's eyes burned. My brother saved her mother. Maybe more than that. And now his daughter's being dragged through the mud because of your greed. Luke's composure cracked. You have no proof she's related to you. This could all be, then I'll get proof, Ethan interrupted. DNA, records, anything it takes, Luke scoffed. You're too late. The media's eating this up. Tomorrow, Cole Technologies will have to vote on whether you stay as CEO. The board doesn't like scandals, family or not. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. Then quietly, You've always wanted this position, haven't you? Luke's silence said everything. Without another word, Ethan turned and left the building, fury and heartbreak battling in his chest. That night, he sat alone in his penthouse study. Rain lashed against the windows as he stared at the city he'd conquered, the empire built on ambition and loneliness. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. A woman's voice spoke softly. Mr. Cole, this is Dr. Harris from Harborview Medical. The girl you helped, she's here. Ethan's pulse raced. Is she okay? She's fine, Dr. Harris said. But there's something you should know. Ethan's grip tightened around the phone. What is it? The doctor paused. When we ran a standard intake, something unusual came up. The DNA match system flagged a connection, a familial tie. It's marked Cole. Ethan's heart slammed against his ribs. How close? Immediate, Dr. Harris replied. Father-daughter level. Ethan went silent. The room felt suddenly smaller, the world heavier. Before he could speak, the line went dead. He stared at his reflection in the rain-soaked glass, the billionaire who had everything, except what mattered most. Then his phone buzzed again. A message this time. A single photo of Maya in the hospital hallway, and beneath it, a chilling line of text. If you want her safe, come alone. Pier 57, midnight. Ethan's eyes widened. He knew that pier. It was where Ryan had died. The past had returned, and this time it was demanding a reckoning. The wind tore through the bay as Ethan's car screeched to a stop near Pier 57. Midnight had swallowed the city, leaving only the sound of waves crashing against the wooden beams below. The same place his brother had died 8 years ago, now a ghost of memory and regret. He stepped out, heart pounding, searching through the mist for any sign of Maya. A flicker of light appeared near the far end of the pier. She was there, sitting on the bench, her thin frame shivering under the dim glow of a street lamp. But she wasn't alone. A shadow stepped out behind her, Luke Bennett. Ethan's blood ran cold. "You've gone too far, Luke." Luke smiled, unbothered. "Relax. She's fine. I just needed to make sure you'd come alone." "Why bring her here?" Ethan demanded. "Because," Luke said, walking closer, "you wouldn't listen any other way. You're about to destroy everything you built for a girl who means nothing to this company." Ethan's voice turned to steel. "She means something to me," Luke scoffed. "A billionaire moved by charity, how poetic. But you can't lead a multi-billion-dollar empire on emotions. You'll lose everything." Ethan took a step forward, eyes burning with fury. "Then let me lose it. At least I'll finally be human again." Luke's expression hardened. "You think this girl is your redemption? She's your weakness." Maya stood abruptly, facing both men. "You're wrong," she said firmly. "He's not weak. He's the first person who ever cared without wanting something in return." Luke frowned. "You think he cares about you? Wait until he finds out the rest." Maya's breath hitched. "What are you talking about?" Luke glanced at Ethan, cruel satisfaction in his eyes. "You really think Ryan was your father? He wasn't." Ethan froze. "What?" Luke smirked. "I checked the shelter archives. The man listed as Maya's father wasn't Ryan. It was you, Ethan. She's not your niece. She's your daughter." The words slammed into Ethan like lightning. He staggered back, heart racing, mind spinning. "That's impossible," he whispered. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "No, that can't be." Luke's voice turned bitter. "While you were chasing wealth, your brother covered for you. He protected your secret, your reputation. You had an affair with her mother before your company even took off. He took the blame when she got pregnant. That's why he left everything behind." Ethan's throat tightened. Fragments of memory flashed. The shelter visit, the woman with kind eyes, his brother's promise. "I'll take care of it. You focus on your dream." The realization hit him like a storm. Ryan had sacrificed his own name to save Ethan's. Maya stepped closer, trembling. "Is it true?" Ethan's voice cracked. "I didn't know. I swear, Maya, I didn't know." Luke's satisfaction turned into mockery. "Touching. But now the world will. Reporters are already waiting for confirmation. Tomorrow morning your empire collapses." Ethan turned to him, his grief transforming into fury. "You think you've won? You've just proven you're everything I never want to be." He stepped forward, his voice low and powerful. "You built your career on lies, Luke, but I built mine on resilience. And tonight, I'll rebuild everything, not for money, but for her." Luke sneered, but before he could respond, Maya pulled something from her bag, a USB drive wrapped in the same letter Ryan had written. "My mom said this holds the truth about what happened the night Ryan died." Ethan's heart stopped. "The night he died?" Maya nodded. "She said someone was there, someone he trusted." Luke's smirk faltered. Ethan's gaze snapped to him. "What did you do, Luke?" For the first time, Luke's confidence cracked. "You have no proof." Maya held out the drive. "I think I do." Ethan took it carefully, realizing that Ryan had planned everything, his forgiveness, his redemption, even this moment. "You framed him," Ethan said quietly. "You caused the accident." Luke stepped back, panic flickering across his face. "You can't prove any of this." Ethan's voice hardened. "You're right, I can't. But this can." He lifted the drive. "And by morning, everyone will know." Luke turned to run, but police lights flashed from the street entrance. Someone had already tipped them off. Grace. She stood beside the officers, soaked in rain but resolute. Luke froze as officers surrounded him. Ethan turned back to Maya, who stood in tears, trembling between shock and relief. He reached out, voice breaking. "Maya, you're not alone anymore. Not ever again." She fell into his arms, sobbing. The rain poured harder, washing away years of guilt and silence. But before they could leave, Ethan's phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "There's more you don't know. Ryan's death wasn't an accident." Ethan looked at Maya, heart pounding. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one still waiting to break. The storm finally broke the next morning. The sky over Seattle was washed clean, pale sunlight spilling over the harbor like a promise of peace. Ethan sat on the balcony of his penthouse, the city below glowing with early morning calm. It had been a long night. Luke's arrest, the police report, the investigation that followed. The USB drive Maya carried had contained video evidence, Ryan's last recorded message stored in his old shelter account, proving Luke's manipulation of funds and the confrontation that led to Ryan's fatal accident. The truth was out at last. Ryan's name was cleared. Grace brought Ethan a cup of coffee and gave him a quiet smile. "You look different," she said. "Like someone who finally stopped running." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I have." Behind him, Maya stood by the window, wrapped in a blanket, watching the sunlight break through the clouds. She looked fragile, yet stronger than she'd ever been. The pain in her eyes was still there, but so was peace. Dr. Harris had come earlier that morning to confirm what the DNA results had already shown. Maya was Ethan's biological daughter. There was no longer any doubt. The billionaire who once measured life in deals and deadlines now sat wordless, humbled by a truth far greater than any fortune. "Do you hate me?" he finally asked quietly. Maya turned, meeting his gaze. "You didn't know," she said. "And you didn't walk away when you found out. That's what matters." Her voice was steady, stronger than he expected. Ethan's throat tightened. "I wasn't there when your mother needed me. I wasn't there when Ryan died, but I'm here now. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel alone again." Maya walked over and hugged him, her arms trembling. "You already have." It was simple, human and powerful, more than any speech, more than any grand gesture. Days later, the story hit every headline. Truth behind the billionaire scandal. CEO Ethan Cole clears brother's name. Announces foundation for foster youth. But for once, Ethan didn't care about the headlines. At the press conference that followed, he stood before the world, not as a CEO, not as a billionaire, but as a father. His words were soft but carried weight. "Kindness," he said, "is not weakness. It's strength that refuses to be corrupted. My brother taught me that. My daughter reminded me of it. Wealth builds walls, but kindness builds bridges. And I'm done living behind walls." The audience was silent, moved by the sincerity in his voice. It wasn't a business announcement. It was redemption. He renamed the company's charity division, the Ryan and Maya Foundation for Hope, dedicated to supporting abandoned and at-risk children. It became his new purpose, his new empire built on compassion, not control. 1 year later, the foundation hosted its first event at Pier 57. The same pier that once symbolized loss now echoed with laughter, music, and hope. The Ferris wheel spun slowly in the sunset, lights reflecting over the bay. Ethan stood beside Maya as she took the stage to speak. She looked confident, her voice warm but steady. "When I met Ethan Cole, I thought he was just another rich man," she said with a smile. "But I was wrong. He wasn't just a billionaire. He was a broken man who decided to fix something money couldn't touch, his heart." The audience rose to their feet, some in tears. Grace clapped proudly from the front row. When the applause faded, Ethan stepped beside Maya, holding out a small frame. Inside was Ryan's letter, restored, clean, preserved behind glass. It read, "If you ever meet her, protect her. She's family." Ethan placed it on a memorial bench overlooking the water, beneath a plaque that said, "For those we've lost, and those we've finally found." As the sun sank into the horizon, Maya leaned her head on his shoulder. "You think he'd be proud?" she asked. Ethan smiled softly. "I know he is." They stood there in silence, listening to the quiet hum of the waves, their lives no longer defined by guilt or wealth, but by forgiveness and love. The city lights shimmered across the bay, and for the first time in years, Ethan Cole didn't feel like a billionaire trying to buy meaning. He felt like a man who had finally found it, and in that moment, the storm that had haunted them both was gone, replaced by light, by kindness, and by a family rebuilt from the rain.